Welcome to this special Dojo episode for our Patreon First listeners. This is Dr. Norbert coming to you from the competitive landscape. And I say that because today, since we did a review of the latest affiliation box coming out for Asgard, we wanted to do an affiliation overview episode with a competitive player. And so I'm very pleased to say that I have Cathal from Ireland on the line with me. And he will be going through what we've learned about Asgard since those releases came out. Welcome, Cathal. How are you?
I'm very good, Norbert. How are you?
Good. Thanks so much for doing the show with us today. Why don't we start by helping people understand who you are, how long you've been playing MCP briefly, and then also how attached you've been to Asgard.
Yeah, for sure. Like Norbert said, my name's Cathal. I live in London, so I kind of started MCP when everyone picked it up. So on release.
Yeah, we were one of the few founders, so to speak, of London MCP.
For sure. Yeah, I remember when COVID kind of ended and we were allowed back into Bad Moon. It was like me and you and Pat and Sasa, a couple of other people. I remember giving a whole bunch of people in London their demo games, and they've gone on to kick my ass since. And I'm not happy with how much better they've gotten, but it's a fun. That's a joke. I love to see how this scene has kind of grown and flourished, and then I moved home and just been playing in Ireland since. We have a smaller scene, but like a bunch of dedicated players as well. So it's a lot of fun being able to travel over with those guys too.
Yeah, you do quite a bit of traveling, and I would say you consider yourself one of the more competitive natured players. And I know this for a fact because you were gluing Asgard releases together at the event in August where they came out that weekend to use them in the singles event on that Sunday.
Yeah, for sure. As segues go, that's a pretty good one. Yeah, so I was very high on Asgard. I had tried them out as they were spoiled in the Eurovision leagues, which, if you don't know, Joe Manji and Jim Gradwell run those. They're a ton of fun, and they allow you to play whatever you like because they're madmen and it's the Wild West. So I was playing in that and was like, oh, these guys are really good, but they weren't legal for the team tournament in Nations. So I played the Spider Foes on the Saturday and the Asgard on the Sunday. And funny story about that, I was going to buy them in Element Games where the event was being held, but they didn't get the stock on time. So I was begging in the chat, does anyone know if there's another shop in Manchester? And fortunately, Ant Poole from Newcastle said he would be able to pick me up a box in his shop before he came down for the Saturday. So when he arrived, he gave me the box and then I was putting them together in between rounds, which was, that was fun.
Cool. Yes, I remember. And we played that tournament as well. It was a really tight game too, which was really fun.
Yeah, I had two very close games that weekend between yourself and AJ. Those were, real nail biters, went right down to the wire.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. So, would you say that you've been steady on Asgard then since that time?
Yeah, so since before they came out, since they were spoiled, I was really high on Asgard. I thought Thor looked amazing, and I love Loki, the character. I've had like these Loki Prince of Mischief measurement sticks from Cogatoo since forever, and I've finally had a chance to use them. So yeah, I was really high on them when they came out. I played them solidly from that weekend to WTC. I've kind of let them lie since. I wanted to try out some other things with all the new stuff coming out. But yeah, I've got over 50 competitive games with them. I was the highest ranked Asgard player for like a couple of weeks on Longshanks. Nice. I won a Eurovision with them, and I won didn't win. I was tied 4-0. They only did 4 rounds that Sunday. When they came out, I won an event there, and super high on Asgard. I still think they're probably the best thing in the game, even after losing not losing Brother in Arms and Researcher, but now it's definitely more of a choice.
Yeah, all right. So let's get into it. We're going to review how you felt they were, what changes came to the faction upon release of the new box. And then we're going to fast forward to today where you think they've settled down in the meta. Okay?
Sounds good.
Let's talk about that at the beginning. What was the status of Asgard before that box came out, and how specifically did they get transformed when that box did release?
Okay, so I didn't play a ton of Asgard before this new box got released, but I think their status was they were a punchy team that had an interesting leadership with Thor, Prince of Asgard, that could make them pseudo-immune to some conditions. And because of their better power generation, they tended to play pay-to-flips and were kind of a scenario team, but they didn't have the ability to go wide like some of the better scenario teams. So they were stuck in this kind of halfway house between a couple of places.
I also thought that they had a lot of throws for
They do.
a faction.
They have a ton of throws.
Yeah. Good. And I say that because that's how people used to beat me up all the time. When I was playing Shadowline Daredevil, they wouldn't try to hit me. They would just keep throwing stuff or me into each other and stuff like that. It was really annoying.
Yeah, for sure. That was definitely core of their element. I think their only characters that don't have throws are just Loki. Loki 1. Loki 2 doesn't have a throw either, but at that stage, it was Loki 1 and Heimdall, I think, are the only characters on their roster that don't have a throw of some description. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so...
and Hela. But so that was them before. And since then, I think they've become one of the premier attrition teams because they have the ability to go incredibly tall with the 6-star Thor, who is, as I'm sure everyone knows, just a monster. He can easily kill 2 characters around and maybe more if he's gotten lucky. He can do 9 damage with just collisions before, rolling attack dice. And he rolls some very good attack dice. And then they have 2 fantastic leaderships that support that. Loki is an excellent support character that can make doing ship damage really easy with Oh My What a Pity. And Jane, is no slouch herself when it comes to the actual attrition work herself. Like she does, maybe not quite as much as she is Mighty Thor, as Hero Thor, but like she can definitely contribute as well. She's got a charge, she's a throw on her builder, which is excellent. So this is where they kind of sit right now. And their cards really support that, between Rainbow Bridge to reposition and Odin's Blessing to just keep someone safer around. Like attrition isn't just, killing someone, that's a lot of it, but being able to survive the crackback is also very important. Odin's Blessing is probably the best card in the game for that.
Yeah, so you're pointing out that not only did they get new characters, but they got a really highly quality set of tactics cards as part of the release.
Yeah, well, I mean, in the release, I'm not sure what the best card is. Like Trickster's Boon and Giant's Blood are both good. I'm not super high on Freya's Blessing, but they had really good cards. They had Rainbow Bridge already. They had Odin's Blessing already. Doom Prophecy as well can turn most of their characters into monsters, like Sif rolling 9 dice, Master Swordsman for a turn is also amazing. Or even Bill. But they've got both sides of the attrition side focus because they're all incredibly tanky. They have lots of defensive mechanics, re-rolls or reduce by 1s or whatever it is that they need to do. And they've got excellent control because everyone can move people or throw people, like you said. So they really excel at this kind of attrition fight, not just by punching you down, but also by either making your turn worse or just being defensive.
Yeah. Do you considering the 4 characters, do you think all 4 of them found places in rosters?
Absolutely.
Yeah, they did. Okay.
Yeah, there's no dud in that box. I think, if you were to argue who is the least impactful, I think it would probably be Lady Sif. But even then, I loved her over WTC. She was probably my MVP.
Yeah, for sure. No, I agree with that assessment too. But she's last, but not very far behind last.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Who do you think then, thinking back to the original Asgard characters, who do you think were winners or losers with the advent of this new box? Like by losers, I mean, you don't see them anymore, and winners meaning like suddenly they became important again.
I think the losers in that box are Thor, Prince of Asgard. I don't think he is the worst leader in the faction now by a long margin. And not even just that. I think if he wasn't called Thor, like say Hero Thor was Odin or something, you might still see play with him. But because, he is also Thor Odin's son, he will never see play compared to his, bigger, angrier version. But
Yeah.
that
Okay.
said, some people like him. There's definitely.
Sure.
I have seen the results coming in from LVO over the weekend. There are people playing him, and like he definitely has scenarios where his niche is wanted. I just think he would be my third choice. Would make my roster.
Right. Okay. That's fair. Who else lost out?
Ooh, that's
Scourge,
a good
Heimdall?
question. I think Hela might have lost out in faction. I think she's a very interesting splash in certain other places, but I think she might have been, probably the second 4 in a lot of rosters. I think particularly in Asgard, she offers a little bit more than Loki. She's a little bit faster. I'm talking about Loki, God of Mischief. So she would have been maybe the second choice of 4, but I think
Yeah.
Lady Sif kind of pushes her out as well.
Yeah.
As to the rest of the roster, I think you could see arguments for playing any of the 3s. I think that comes down to personal preference. I think Angela is now probably out, but some people like her. I would rather have Mighty Thor as my second 5, and if I was to look for another 5, I'd be looking outside of affiliation, like maybe Namor. I think you're not going to take 3 affiliated 5s, and I think Loki, Prince of Lies, and the Mighty Thor, Jane Thor, would be my choices.
Yeah. What do you think about winners then? Would you say Beta Ray Bill is kind of somebody who woke up?
Beta Ray Bill is a real winner. Like, he is an excellent 4 to begin with. And I think the card Brothers in Arms was, when it wasn't restricted, was amazing. There was no reason not to take it. And I think even now, there's a very good argument to still take it and just drop one of your defensive cards. And I think he does a lot of the work that makes the list tick. Like, he can throw, your Thanos or your Apocalypse away while Thor beats up everyone else. He can just go get that extract turn 1 and you don't feel bad about throwing him up there. He does a lot of the grunt work for the list that, actually gets you points. And I think, he's incredibly important to the list. Sometimes you take Sif over him, depends on the scenario, but I think he is a real core to the way I played, at least.
Yeah. So I would say he's one of the ones that you didn't see very much of before the new affiliation box came out, but now you see him consistently in
I think you
rosters.
probably would have seen him more as a splash before. I mean, I didn't play a lot of Asgard previously, and I don't think he does enough based on old leadership, because he was already immune to a bunch of things and he wasn't getting anything else out of it. I mean, maybe the healing, but he really likes having the power anyway. Whereas, now he's an all-star under either Loki or Jane.
Okay, cool. What would you say then were typical splashes that people were putting in initially?
Well, it depends on how heavily you wanted to lean into Trickster's Boon. Because obviously you need a non-Asgard character to have that. You either went for the big flashy Killmonger play, which I did at the start and I didn't love, because I just found him too fragile. As much as I love the character, I think he's a ton of fun on the table. But I preferred the more safe options for it, like giving Bullseye, the power, and he can just auto damage one person using it opportunistically. It's just so safe. I also love Amazing Spider-Man. Or not Amazing Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, the 3-threat version, for the same reason, because if you give him 5 power, he can place double move and then throw someone into something, and this is just an insane threat range. If someone is on 1 health across the board, he can get there. And he loves the power. He can definitely use it. So those characters are great. I also liked Spectacular Spider-Man just because he is good on those shapes where Asgard are less good. Being able to, efficiently and effectively fight over 2 D points with his range 4 push, with his place, with his throw. I really like him for that. Being a bit boring, Zemo is excellent everywhere. Who else were my splashes? I had Red Guardian in there. No, not Red Guardian. The other Russian dude. What's his name? He also has red in there.
Crimson Dynamo?
That's the one. Yeah, Crimson Dynamo was great because I found it was very important to have another 4 threat, because a lot of the games you were playing were on 19 or 15. So knowing who you would add to your BLT was important. Sif can do it. I ended up doing a lot with Sif when I was at WTC, and I didn't get my choice for everyone. But like Crimson Dynamo also is very good, particularly on demons or Gamma if they end up playing Gamma at 19, just because he has so much control.
Yeah. So let's, and we'll come back to splashers in a moment, but when they came out then, what would you say their strengths were? Like, what did they like to try to do on the table, and hence the crises that were conducive to that? And what didn't they like?
So obviously, fighting down the middle, they were the best researcher team. They might still be the best research team, but research is very awkward because if you bring it and you end up against a team that likes it, then you are down our restricted card, and they will presumably have two of theirs. So it's awkward.
Yeah, but I'm talking about when the box came out.
Oh, when they came out, yeah, researcher for sure. Gamma, any of these like crises that's force the attrition. What they don't like is the spread shapes. I still don't think they like the spread shapes or wide extracts. I think Fisk isn't great for them. I mean, they can win the fight, but like the stun is awful on either Thor, not Prince of Asgard Thor, because obviously he's immune, and maybe that's a reason to bring him. I know some people are bringing him for that, but it's awful for Hero Thor. And the points value 16 is awkward because you're either playing 3 wide, which is okay, but a lot of teams can then go 5 or 6, which is worrying, particularly at 6. 6 into 3, you really can't have any dice go badly. And Paranoia, also bad. And any of the D shapes, and 16. Those were the things I thought scared me, or continue to scare me. But at the time, like, you never know how good something is until you keep playing it. So at Nations, I remember thinking those were the ones that I was a little bit dicey about, but didn't come up. Got very lucky. Pay to flips are also kind of awkward because they don't like using their actions to move and flip points. Loki's okay at it because while his attacks are good, he's very fast. They do have good power generation, so you can generally do enough. But it is kind of, it can be dicey.
So is it strictly their plan for attrition and scooping up points where they can? Is that the main?
Yeah, I think attrition is the way to go with them. Like, obviously, you play to your outs, you kill the extract holders, and if you're suddenly ahead by so much that it doesn't matter, then you can just throw characters away. But yeah, right. My game plan was always to win via attrition, whether that's tabling them or just getting to the point where they can't realistically do enough to win.
Yeah. And so consequently, centralized secures is what you're after, and low extract counts is what you're after.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think I was playing Alien. No, I wasn't playing Alien Ship because they get a ton of power. I was playing Montesi, Deadly Legacy Virus, and Researcher, when it wasn't banned, or not banned, but restricted, effectively banned. And then Intrusions, Gamma. And then I can see the arguments for both Deadly Meteors and Demons Downtown. I never was quite sure which one I preferred. Having played both a lot. I think in the end I decided to go with Deadly Meteors just because you will often have more power than your opponent because of the Asgardian special rule. But yeah. Bill is also Incinerate immune, so like having him on your back demon or the middle demon is also fun.
Yeah, and Deadly Meteors is the 3 across that's pay to flip, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even though pay to flip you're not bad at, but I think that scenario is nicer because it is rather centrally located, honestly.
Yeah, and it's also not too many points. So the other pay to flips are 4 points, and they're a lot more spread out. I think Sword might be okay because it is a little bit condensed, but if you lose Sword, the downside is real bad. You can mitigate it somewhat, but it's real bad.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So with that in mind, then how would you shore up your bad matchups?
Yeah, so I made sure that I could play 5 wide at 16 because I didn't think the 3 wide option was great. And that meant having one of the affiliated 3s. I know a lot of people don't like Valkyrie or Scourge or Heimdall, but I had a couple of them for this reason. I also had a 2 threat, which, really helped. And I think that's kind of a no-brainer because at 17, you just add Bullseye or Rocket or Okoye or whoever your preferred two threat is to your BLT. I know Wong's pretty popular as well, just to be able to give Thor another power. But just being able to flex that way is real nice. Amazing Spider-Man, or not amazing, I keep saying that. Spectacular Spider-Man for the D shapes, being able to spread out right and control multiple points with his amazing mobility, and the fact that you can just, at the drop of a hat, give him 5 power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So also winning prio. I know that's not something you can guarantee, but if you win prio, a lot of your bad matchups turn into good matchups.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in those instances, you might pick the opponent's your extracts, for instance, if they have high number of extracts.
Yeah, it depends on like what you think is worse. Is it worse for you playing on a D map or with 5 extracts? I think playing Spider Infection on Gamma is fine because you don't have to pick them all up. You just kill the person and put it away. Particularly against teams like Web Warriors or Spider Foes, where they really have to get ahead early, and that often means diving one of your points. And this happened to me at WTC. They dived one of my points. I just kill that person first, and then remove them straight away. And again, that's a bit dicey, but that's kind of what they need to do to win, and you know what you need to do to stop them.
Okay, and that's because you're trying to go as tall as possible, so that you're always getting priority in round 2 onwards. Yeah.
I would also say you have to remember, or not have to remember, but take into account when it's worth losing priority, because if you can daze their entire team or KO some people, then don't really worry about priority, especially into teams like Web Warriors, where the worst that they can do is have 2 7 dice attacks into Thor or something. You just got to take your risks where you get them. But like, if you can start wiping out a team, do it, not because, or just don't be afraid of doing it because of losing prio.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. So what would you consider a bad matchup? Where would you struggle?
I think the Cabal matchup, the Thanos Cabal matchup, is real interesting. I don't know if
Red
it's
Skull 3 we're talking about.
Yeah, the Red Skull 3 Cabal matchup.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you think that they're superior.
It's so close. It's the real problem, because it becomes a very dicey matchup. I think there's a lot of this game that's 50-50, and it depends on how much you've played it and how much your opponents played it. But I think it's a tough match, because they just do as much as you do, but their offense I think is a little bit better, but your defense is better. So it's really one or the other. And I think getting stuck on a wide map can be problematic when Thor can't be everywhere, and if people are able to rotate and they play that matchup well, that can be very tough.
So you're talking about X-Men and Web Warriors?
Yeah, X-Men and Web Warriors. Anyone who's really good on a D shape, I think, could be problematic. But you also have pieces that are very good. Like if Thor wins his side and just happens to daze a bunch of people around, and you're playing slow extracts. So the ideal situation at that point is you pull your researcher and it's on D shape, and then you don't have to worry about it. But if you end up with one of your 3 wide extracts, it's still fine. It depends a lot on how well your dice go, unfortunately. But you have the best diceless attacker in the game, like with Thor throwing things at people, and it's definitely a match that I don't feel bad about, but I think it is one of the weaker ones.
Right. Okay. And what you mentioned Red Skull 3 Thanos had some good attrition, but you have better defense. But on the other hand, they have Thanos rearranging the board every round. So how detrimental is that to your game plan?
Yeah, Thanos rearranging the board is obviously not good. I think you can mitigate that somewhat if you can have your Loki go after their Thanos. But those games tend not to be decided by victory points anyway. So, ultimately, that's a knife fight, and, you just try and kill as much as you can before they, rearrange the board. Like, if Thanos is dead, he can't rearrange the board. And in those games where, it's your 3 versus their 3, and there's like 6 points on the table, and like they're probably not getting your back point anyway. And, maybe it's demons, maybe no one's scoring the secure. You just try and put yourself in the best position to do as much damage as possible, either trying to kill Red Skull and Zemo and whoever else the third person is, or going for Thanos, or both if you get very lucky. So
I was going to ask you that. What is your priority then when you see, let's say, the classic Red Skull 3, Thanos, and Baron Zemo, and then whatever splashes come, or filling out the points after that. But that's the 3, the core 3.
That is 3, yeah.
All the other things being equal, like, obviously if they give you an opening, you're going to take it. But presuming the player is playing the high level capability, what is your typical preference into going into after Thanos, trying to take down Zemo?
I think taking Zemo off the board as soon as possible is ideal. Particularly once he is dazed, he becomes so much more dangerous with the 11 dice, reroll all shenanigans. So if you can engineer that situation where you just remove Zemo, that's fine. And generally, you get to that situation where you can remove Zemo and do something else if it all works out, because you get rid of Brace as soon as you can, and you keep throwing stuff at him. You hit him as well. Like, generally, if he takes a collision and an attack from Thor, generally Thor has something else he can do. So then you start on Red Skull or Thanos, whoever's nearest by. But if you had the choice, I would then start on Red Skull, because he does so much as well. He's a mini Thanos in his own right.
Yep.
He is incredibly good. He's also not super defensive. So like, it's just easier to get rid of him if you can. So I would start with those guys and like have Bill control Thanos if possible. Like just Bill moving around, throwing Thanos away.
Yeah. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Does it matter if you have priority versus whether they have priority in terms of your game plan?
Yeah, it does and it doesn't, because whoever doesn't have priority tends to get the first punch on round 1. And unless you one-shot someone, that doesn't matter so much, because they're going to keep Zemo as safe as possible on turn 1, and Red Skull. Like, no one's going to be in real danger turn 1, usually. But then afterwards, they have so much pressure on you because they have prio. Alternatively, if you have prio, they're going to have punch straight away, which is, not great. But I mean, you can set up a safe grab if they choose not to, because you can use. So I'm a Loki player. I know Jane might be the smarter option into this match, but I just always played Loki because I have the reps with him, and switching to Jane's seemed not futile or redundant, but I don't see that matchup too often. And I think familiarity is just more important than the little edge Jane might have over Loki. Because while he doesn't kill Thanos as easily, and the Oh My What a Pity doesn't do as much because they can get out of one skull, I just played so many games. But if you haven't, I would suggest playing Jane. But like being able to set up the safe grab as well is better if you have prio, because you can just place either probably Bill if you're going for the grab, up to, and then he can move up, grab an extract, and come back, which kind of forces them to do the same thing with Thanos. And if they use Thanos for a safe grab, you're happy.
Yeah, totally get it. Okay, that makes sense. So where was I going with this? Right. So where do you think the meta has evolved to now? It's been 6 months or so? More?
Yeah. Obviously, Researcher, I think, is...
so that's been restricted.
That's been restricted. Brothers in Arms has been restricted. So I think you're forced to make an interesting choice of... So I was running Brace and Patch Up, because you have such high health pools. I think Patch Up gets a little bit more value than Sacrifice. But I can see an argument for Sacrifice as well. So those were the restricted cards I was running, and I dropped, and I had Brothers in Arms and I had Researcher. For WTC, I dropped Brace and I kept Researcher. In that format, I think that in the 5-man team tournament, I think that's a valid decision. In general, I think I would rather keep probably Brothers in Arms over Brace and just bring another slow extract, probably Alien Ship. But I think they're all valid choices. Staying more defensive, bring Brace and Patch Up or Sacrifice. Going a little bit more offensive and just keeping Brace. Also good. You've really got an interesting choice to make. And I think if you asked 5 Asgardian players, you might get 5 different opinions. So I think that they're all fine. I really do like Brothers in Arms. I think it's a turn where Thor can delete basically anything on the board. And also if Bill has a bunch of power, he can delete a lot of things. So yeah, I think it's a really good card to have if you feel comfortable playing with one defensive restricted.
Okay. So what do you think then, where else do you think that the roster and maybe the affiliation overall has evolved as people try to counter it over the last 6 to 8 months?
I think seemingly based on the results from LVO that happened the day prior to recording, Jane Thor seems very popular. She was the mirror in the final, so that's really cool. Maybe I need to get more games with her, but but yeah, it seems like it's evolved in that sort of sense. I don't know, what these guys were playing. I haven't watched the streams yet, so I'm looking forward to having a go at that. But I still think it's the top thing in the meta, which is interesting because there wasn't tons of Asgard, at least when I was at Mutant Weekender there the other weekend.
Yeah.
Didn't seem super popular. I feel like maybe it's something that we do. We're not handicapping ourselves because like everyone's playing the best thing, but there's a little bit of, I've never found that Thanos Cabal is super popular when I was, at tournaments, because it's kind of, it's the horrible mean thing, and it's kind of, it's not frowned upon. Like people could play it, but not everyone wants to be playing that. I think Asgard might suffer a little bit of that.
Yeah.
At some UK tournaments that I've been to, and certainly at my local tournaments, I don't see a lot of people playing Asgard, which is strange because they're very strong and they're very thematic and they're very cool. But I guess not everyone wants to be playing the best thing all the time, and that's certainly why I moved on, or at least partially. I played a lot of games with them.
Yeah, you just had enough, right? I mean, you needed a break.
Yeah, and there's certainly something to what some people have said. It's not the hardest list to pilot, which, is fun. I mean, there are a lot of decision points, but generally it's apply Thor to problem gone away, yes or no, and move on from there. So, there's certainly that people say there's a little bit of lack of skill expression, like you can get a little bit more interesting interactions with maybe other factions. I'm not sure how much I agree with that, because it's a lot of fun to roll big buckets of dice. And then when the buckets of dice don't go your way, you still have to find an interesting way to win. And I think this is a faction that can do that. Like even if Thor doesn't and do everything he needs to, he's still got a good amount of control with his builder, which, doesn't always come off, but is useful to have, being able to push people away. Loki's got a great number of interesting things he can do as well, like moving the entire team with his spender. So like I found them interesting to play. I don't think that's a problem, but I found that people tend not to always play the best thing, and so you don't see it. Yeah.
Do you feel that the meta has shifted from Loki being the most popular leader of the two to now Mighty Thor, Lady Jane being the more popular one, or is it about the same?
Certainly seems that way based on the results over the weekend. I'd be interested to look at the stats, actually. Can I do that? Yeah, we can do that, right?
Sure. Absolutely. Talking about the stats on Longshanks.
Although that said, we were just talking, or at least I was just talking about how a lot of people tend not to play the best thing all the time. But, Asgard was the most popular list in the Invitational. So, clearly I was wrong there. But I would say that kind of gets a pass at, WTC. I know a lot of people were playing the best thing there because every team more or less had a Thanos Cabal. Every team had an Asgard. But let's see who was taking more times. Oh, here we are. I found it.
Found it,
So
great.
Loki was only played 11 times. Mighty Thor has played 21. So yeah, it does seem like there's a big shift there, at least in the US. I would still be inclined to play Loki. But like I said, I played way more Loki. So
Yeah,
I am
sure.
biased that way.
Because I feel like I sense that that's what's happening now. People were all over Loki 2 initially, but now more consistency has been desired, and Lady Jane seems to be providing that more.
Yeah, and she definitely
Loki 2.
does have a better like play pattern as far as herself goes. Like she does more work. Loki's attacks are good, but they're also very hard to quantify because you're not relying, but you're looking for your opponent's skulls. If they have a way out of skulls, then that doesn't matter quite as much. And like there's a lot of prominent lists like invaders or web warriors that can just do that. Whereas Jane, she just does good things. She can throw terrain, which Loki can't. She's got to throw on her builder, which is, the best thing about Thor, Prince of Asgard. So it's even better when it's range 3. She has rerolls on her charge. She's got a lot of very nice qualities.
Yeah, she definitely very strong. Okay, let's try to kind of wrap up a little bit and tell us a little bit about how you would advise people to play the faction now with, let's say, your ideal build. Like what's the basic plan of action? What are some tips and tricks that you've picked up at playing them?
Yeah, I would say pick the crises that we've kind of talked around, like pick attrition focus crises. Have a plan for if you're playing Jane or Loki or both. I think both are also very acceptable way to play. Think about how you want to manipulate the power, I think is also very important, particularly if you're playing Loki, because you want to be able to move someone turn 1 and have Loki do some of the crisis stuff. So like if you put Beta Ray Bill forward and someone attacks you, even if you don't take damage, it might be worth doing the reroll anyway, just to, give Loki the 3rd power to place someone. Have a plan for that, like placing either Thor or Jane up can, or Sif or Valkyrie. Sif and Valkyrie can then charge onto a point that can be really impactful. But also moving Thor up too. Sometimes he can double tap someone on the midline, particularly if terrain has forced them to be a bit closer. That's also worth looking out for. Kill the extract holders. So it's a good piece of advice. Keep prio and just keep punching them down. I would say be careful about how you use Odin's, because it's probably the most important decision that you will make in terms of your tactics cards. Think about things like, do they have another attack? Do they have a throw? Stuff like that, trying to get the most value out of that. Look out for Namor, because he's the one that can ignore it. He was always priority number 1 whenever I saw him. I think, most of the teams that you play against with Namor generally will be a little bit wider, so you should be able to keep priority, and then just look out for the tricks that they will have to keep him safe, like sacrifice or heroes for hire or bodyguards, etc. And then be aware of the counters for Thor. People that are immune to collision damage from characters like M'Baku or Kingpin, they can really stymie a plan, particularly if like they just walk in front of Thor, and be aware of your solutions to that.
What about rooting and stunning him? Is that have you found that to be really effective?
Yeah. Shang-Chi is a nightmare. He is also on the kill first list, in my opinion. The stun is backbreaking, particularly if the enemy is then able to just leave him alone. Stun before damage is awful. And then what I would say is you can then plan, if he's stunned, you can plan Thor's turn very well by just looking at, or just making the assumption that he will generate 1 power when he attacks. This isn't always the case, but just make that assumption then and play around that, and then decide, okay, no, I really do need, more than 2 power. I need 3 power. Then shake the stun, make your attack, and go from there, if you can. But, just Thor's power economy is is normally very good because he is such a good builder, But if he is stunned, then it becomes, or rooted, and then it becomes such a big decision. And this is why like Apocalypse can be such a pain to play against, because not only are you rooted, you are, you can be poisoned, you can be bleeding, you can be slowed, and yeah. So that's an interesting matchup for sure. I still think it's probably good for Asgard because they're very good at just punching through big health pools. And that is what Apocalypse is. But, being able to work out how to get the best out of Thor is, very key to not only Asgard, but any team you put Thor in.
Mm-hmm. And this is where understanding your local meta is important, because that might be when you consider having Wong in your roster or not. Right? Because Wong will be able to clear that stun or root off of Thor.
Or stagger, because as we talked about Namor being a real pain in the ass. And Wong could be the guy.
And when do you like to play Doom Prophecy?
Oh, I love it with Sif. If you're playing Sif, you bring Doom Prophecy or Valkyrie. Valkyrie is pretty good too. But I found Sif came out more often. And then you play it when you have prio and when they'll have a good activation.
Right, just to stop that from happening.
Yeah, because otherwise, like getting punched back with no defense is can be real punishing. Like Sif still reduces the damage, which can sometimes save you, but like it just, if you're doing it, they're dead in your head. If they can get any physical attacks at them, just write them off, and make sure you make that decision.
Okay, all right, cool.
But a great card would bring it.
Any predictions about possible adjustments to characters or tactics cards that AMG might be coming out with?
Oh, that is an interesting choice, or an interesting thing to speculate about. I've heard plenty of interesting and creative solutions from the community. As always, it's one of the players loves talking about that thing that beat them and how this would make it better. A cool one I heard was making Thor size 2. That certainly does bring his potential damage down by a bit, because then it's only 3
and his ability to move with the pounce and everything like that. That's just the physical size of the base in terms of the distance
just the physical size of the character from 3 to 2 means that when he throws himself into you, you're taking 3 damage, which is better than 4 damage. The one that I think would be good is you could change Havathi and the power of Thor to be one superpower, meaning he can either throw himself medium or throw a piece of terrain long. That way you're really reducing his potential damage output, because now he can't go from like 9 collision damage. Now it's either 5 or 4.
Okay, but the point is that you're thinking Thor 2 would get some sort of adjustment.
I think Thor 2 is the problem, I want to say. I don't even think he's a problem. I think he's a very interesting piece and a very good piece. I think if you compare him to Hulk, like Hulk is a control monster and Thor is the attrition monster, and I think they're both fine where they are. I know a lot of people would disagree with me, but I think that's the way to look at it. And I think
are you saying it's because?
Sorry, go ahead.
You're saying that Thor 2 would be okay. It's just that the way that he fits into the overall affiliation, he gets too many.
I don't even think it's the affiliation. I think it's like him as a piece is the problem with the meta in general, or what you could argue is the problem with the meta in general, because a lot of the factions make very good use out of him. Very good at Midnight Suns. He's very good in Humans. Very good at Avengers, and like you've seen these factions use Thor 2 because of that. I think the current Crisis Pack is I don't want to say the real problem, but like you can have like 6 slow scenarios in your crises, and then the scenario teams can struggle. I think it's not worth talking about how you would change a character when we know they're going to release new crises in 2 months. Okay. And maybe he won't be as good. And that's what I'm hoping for, because I really do like that Thor, who has been not so bad. Like they've even buffed Prince of Asgard Thor. But Thor is one of those iconic characters that you just want to be good in this game. And this story is that Thor at the moment.
Yeah, I see that. But okay, so to kind of restate what you said, you're saying that the current pack of crises are really favorable to the affiliation's game plan. And so if the shakeup of the crises, which we know are coming, although we don't know the details for the most part, if that shakeup changes things, that might be enough to kind of normalize where Asgard fits in the meta.
Yeah, it might be. I'm hoping it is, because like no affiliation should be so dominant. You want to see different teams win
of
different
course.
events.
Yeah.
Like Asgard have done really well. But if you look at the last couple of big events, like X-Men won Mutant Weekender, Asgard win LVO, we go back like a couple of weeks to Everwinter and Avengers won that. Like, I don't think they're as dominant as certainly teams have been in the past, like where Malekith won everything one year.
Yeah.
But, it's certainly, it's on the cusp of that. Like, people love to complain. So this is the thing to complain about. That said, I'm definitely a Thor defender because I want him to be cool. And I think, as you guys said on your podcast, like everything on Loki's card is so thematic. Everything on Thor's card is so thematic. Everything on Jane's card is so thematic. Like, it's just in a vacuum, these characters are incredibly well designed. They're super cool.
Yeah.
The meta as it stands, they just might be a little bit too good.
Yep. I hear that exactly. All right. Well, at a minimum, then the new crises are supposed to be out at the end of March, I think, or at least mid-March. So we don't have that much longer to wait, maybe 2 months to wait. If that's indeed the only changes that are coming our way, I think historically in September time is when they do bigger character changes and things like that.
Mini extravaganza is usually when you get the bigger changes. But who knows?
Who knows?
They can do whatever they want.
They can indeed. In the meantime, any other final parting words about Asgard for people thinking to play them competitively?
I think Asgard are a very good faction to play competitively at the moment. Like, they're not super, like I alluded to, not super hard to pilot very well. You just have to have your, for lack of a better word, your gaming fundamentals on point. Your target priority, your positioning. So I think they're and like a lot of their cards are very forgiving. Like, if you're going to take a bunch of damage from a spike, Odin's Blessing is just a very good card to play. Like, all you have to do to have that is, keep 3 power on your characters. They have excellent power generation. So just, starting with, basic rules of thumb and then knowing when to stay away from them, or stray away from them is fine. But like, they're a very forgiving faction to play.
Interesting. All right, buddy. Thank you so much for your overview. Really appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you. Hope everybody who's listening to this got some value out of it, and we appreciate you for being Patreons and helping support our costs and things like that for us to carry on with the show. So until the next Patreon first episode, thanks very much for listening, and we hope to see you soon.